All right, look. So let me explain to y'all what the fuck is going on, right? Now, I know a lot of y'all might not know that last year in February, right, I had caught a gun case, right? I was in a big ass accident. A car hit me from behind, right? Now, how do I explain this shit? How do I explain this shit?
How about you just try to explain it by simply telling the truth? The mere fact that you're sitting up here and you have to try and prepare yourself to think about how you're going to tell a simple story indicates that you're about to lie and embellish and probably by the end of the story try and sell us some type of class or consultation because you're about to make up a reason how you beat this case or whatever it is. Like, just tell the frickin' truth. Don't sit and think about it. Just tell the story how it happened. Now remember, we saw the video already. So tell the truth, Bob.
So after I got hit, the lady, from behind, I didn't know her, never met her day in my life. She whacked me with the car. I was unconscious. Now, the paramedics at that scene came to pick me up, right? They assisted me and they was asking me, am I okay and everything as far as that. So moments later, an officer came. And while I was knocked out, pretty much unconscious, I guess he came from my side and took my pistol that was inside of my pocket, right?
You see, this is what I'm talking about with this scammer. He's starting off the story by lying. You were not unconscious. We saw the video. You was on the ground. You were bleeding. You were awake. The cops in the ambulance were talking to you. They were asking you your name and some other things. So why are you sitting up here lying? You know what? Let me cut to the accident scene.
Flashback.
What up, man? Hey, how you doing? Good. What hurts? Everything. Everything?
He's got an abrasion to his head.
Yeah.
Stand up.
He doesn't remember everything either.
What the fuck happened?
Oh, he's got this back here. His right knee and his head down here on the left side. He said he's complaining of chest pain, but we haven't rolled him over at all.
Oh, that's fine. Stay right there, man.
Yeah.
Do me a favor, just keep your head down, okay?
Yeah.
Yep, just relax right there. What's up?
Just wait
Is
till
this?
he messes
Were you wearing this bag when you got hit by the car?
I think so.
Okay.
Shit. Tell me your name. What is it? Okay.
Oh, stop it.
What is your name?
Now, this is why I don't understand this buffoon. Like, you released the footage of your accident, then you speak on it. Then again, I'm not sure which video you released first. I will have to go back and check. But either way, you're lying about the situation. You just said that you were knocked out, which you clearly wasn't. Then you said while you were knocked out, the officers came and took your gun off of your hip or out of your pocket, which isn't true because I just showed footage and the gun was in the bag that they found that you were riding around with. So I don't understand. I don't even understand the point of you lying about what happened when you yourself already released the footage. It literally makes no sense what you're doing right now.
So moments later, an officer came. And while I was knocked out, pretty much unconscious, I guess he came from my side and took my pistol that was inside of my pocket, right? After he done that, I went to the hospital, through the ambulance, whatever. So now I'm at the hospital. They running me through this room and that room and all type of shit. After they ran me from that room to, a whole nother room, officer came back. The nurse came back first, and she asked me a question. She was like, "Sir, do you have an address?" And I basically told her, like, my mailing address is this, because they want to send mail. So I gave her my mailing address. Now, mind you, I never seen an officer. That day, I never seen it because I was knocked out. I didn't know who was behind me. I didn't know if anybody was watching me or whatever. So after that whole situation, after I gave her my address, right, for only mailing purposes, about 20 minutes later, the officer came in. They told me that I was under arrest for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. So I asked the officer, I'm like, "Have you ran my information?" He was like, "Yeah." He said my information popped up and everything, but I asked him, "Did you see, where it say lifetime concealed weapons permit?" He tried to prolong it to say that wasn't on my passport. But I'm gonna tell you guys what really happened. The reason why I was arrested, it wasn't because I was a felon. It wasn't because I had a firearm. It was because I gave jurisdiction.
Excuse me, sir, but how in the doohickey did you come to that conclusion when the officer clearly explained to you why you were being arrested? Number one. Number two, you claim to be a non-citizen national, so the U.S. don't have jurisdiction to arrest you, meaning the cops shouldn't have had jurisdiction to arrest you because you're a non-citizen national. So if everything that you always preach is true, why were they able to arrest you? Now, you said something stupid talking about they ran your passport and you asked them if they saw that you had a lifetime carry and conceal license. When the cops run your passport, the passport doesn't show if you have a gun license or not, which is why when people get gun licenses, they have to keep it with them. It doesn't get linked to your ID or your passport. So what the hell are you talking about?
Flashback.
All right, so here's the deal, man.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, you're going to jail.
Okay.
You're going to jail for the weapons charge.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know what you're talking about the U.S. Embassy for. Where you?
I'm talking when you ran a passport, what pops up?
It just it just comes up with your information.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're getting handcuffed to the bed.
Okay.
You're not free to leave, unfortunately.
End of flashback.
Now, one thing that a lot of you non-citizen nationals got to understand, bro, is when you give jurisdiction like an address, or if you driving around with anything that's in their jurisdiction, they're going to take claim to that. And one thing you should never do is give them jurisdiction. That's the last thing you should fucking do. Don't ever in your life give them jurisdiction. So if you walking around with anything that's pertaining to a mailing address, you are subject to that mailing address. If you walking around with a registered car and they so happen to tow it, then you should understand why they took that car. Now, back to the gun. The passport, the whole, process with dealing with the passport, the whole process with being a non-citizen national, that stuff true. I'm a convicted felon, right? Now, the gun that they apprehended, right, they took from me, it was actually my gun. They sold it to me in the store, ran a background check, and it went through. Right. They allow a convicted felon to buy a gun because the passport card removed your name and social security number from all government and tax systems. So since the social security number is removed from the passport card, you can go ahead and you go and buy as many guns as you want because they don't tie your name, your social security number and your information to that passport card. But if you was in a situation like me, as far as getting hit by a car and the police got to go through in-depth trying to get in-depth information about you, they would do a nationwide background check, and they would really take their time and search you up if they trying to suspect you of doing a crime. In my case, they suspected me of doing a crime just because the whole scenario. And another thing that brought me to their jurisdiction, it was actually a scenario where someone was injured, and that's what they wanted to use to pull me in their jurisdiction. So one thing everybody got to know is that you don't want to be a subject to the jurisdiction. You don't want to pull yourself into these people, whole administrative courts. Now, to fast forward it, I got arrested. They took me to the police station. Police processed me in. They told me my bond was $12,000, $1,200 to walk. So I end up getting out the next morning. Now, they don't file charges in Florida instantly. It's like sometimes it can take a month, sometimes it can take 2 weeks, sometimes it can take the maximum of 6 months. In my case, it took the maximum of 6 months. Now, this is something crazy. I'm a convicted felon, right? Why in Florida they tried to charge me with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of ammunition by a convicted felon, and they trying to charge me with what's the other thing? Unlicensed carrying a firearm. Now, the thing about it was they couldn't prove that I was a felon because my state did not give over my records to Florida. They did not say, here go his background, here go his fingerprint, because under the UCC uniform conviction thing or whatever, they are able to get everyone background to take it to another state so they can utilize your background against you. My state did not release any of my criminal history to them.
So if your state didn't release any of your criminal history to them, how in the doohickey did they know that you were a convicted felon? Like, what are you talking about?
And so I'm thinking, like, did the status, the status change, affected that in a way? Probably did. Now, 6 months later, the state decided to press charges. They only charged me with unlicensed and carrying a concealed firearm. So they knocked the other two out because they couldn't prove I was a felon. So now, we're going back and forth to court. Pretty much I'm in a position of being pro se. I'm representing myself. I'm not about to have a lawyer from the bar association to represent me at all, because I didn't trust him. I didn't knew his intent, everything as far as that. So after that whole situation, I demanded that I represent myself. So we had a Feretta hearing. Once the Feretta hearing was done, they basically found that I had knowledge or whatever, that I was able to represent myself. I had, I was competent to represent myself. So after that, soon after the court grants me the right to represent myself, then you had the prosecutor come. She said, "Your Honor, we have an offer." And I said, and she was like, "What's the offer?" He might not want to hear it, but what is it? She said, "We have an offer of time considered served without any criminal history." That means, what's the thing called again? Withheld adjudication. Withheld of adjudication mean they not going to give you the felony conviction on your background. In Florida, we do a withheld of adjudication. That means they look at you like you never get a crime a day in your life, so we're going to give you a slap on the wrist. Now, that's not a misdemeanor nor a felony. That's just something, withheld of adjudication. It has no relevance to any background. So I denied it because I wanted the case to be entirely dismissed. But they wanted to put me under a temporary probation. So after probation was over, I was never gonna have a criminal history or background or nothing, and I'd be able to get firearms. So I didn't take it. I know, and if I was awarded the state, I would have took that shit. If I was a regular guy that didn't know anything about the law, didn't know anything about the Constitution, didn't know anything about status change, I would have took that shit in a heartbeat. But since I did know about it, I'm not gonna be too quick to take it. So another thing, I told the judge I'm ready for trial. So first time, trial came around, they asked the state, "Is the state ready?" The state was like, "No, they're not ready." So I'm like, okay. Then I end up filing a notice of removal to federal court. After I filed that notice of removal, I gave a thorough, detailed explanation on why I'm asking for a notice of removal, because the number one, diversity of citizenship. I'm not a United States citizen. I'm not a federal citizen. So we're not going to operate on the assumptions, presumptions, and the acts of color of law. And the second thing, the second reason why I asked for a notice of removal, because the facts that's being put in place is a constitutional question. That's another thing that I have grounds for a notice of removal, because I'm challenging a constitutional question. I'm not dealing with statutory codes. I'm not dealing with legislative acts. You know, we state citizens.
This guy is fucking stupid.
So Judge Byron, I think that's his name, he was a federal judge here in Orlando. He had striked my motion and he denied it. So he favored the state of Florida. So I felt sick. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, man, you know, I'm like, I had every ground, you know, all the grounds to actually get a notice of removal, but he rejected it. So fast forwarded. Months later, I decided to go to trial. We're gonna take it to a jury trial. We took it to the jury trial. Now, you know, I'm representing myself. The judge gave me standby counsel. And so what happened was, people don't even know this. Did you know the prosecutor that was on my case, her name Dana J. Clark, filed a motion to exclude me from using the Second Amendment as a defense in the case. She said the Second Amendment to the Constitution will confuse the jurors. She said it would mislead them. You know, you understand? And I was like, what the fuck? So you mean to tell me a public servant, right, who signed an oath of office to said they gonna uphold and defend and protect the United States Constitution, said she wanted to exclude me from using a constitutional defense? That shit was crazy, right? So we went to court to answer the motion. The judge granted her the motion, said I couldn't use any constitutional defenses. I asked the judge, I'm like, Yana, for the record, I'm like, you signed a written a written oath of office to swear to uphold the United States Constitution. She ignored all of that, right? So this is how they get down in these administrative courts, right? So
now, I can actually respect the fact that this sovereign citizen is being honest on telling the story about what went on during his trial, or whatever you want to call it. But honestly, this is a clear case of him representing himself, and he was way out of his league. You should have let an attorney represent you, and that whole Second Amendment thing would have possibly got rejected by the judge. But no, you want to represent yourself because you studied law on YouTube. So this is what happens. You get bombarded because you are out of your league and you have no business representing yourself.
So, okay, cool. Since they want to break the rules, I'm looking at it like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna break the rules. So since we going through that process, next day was jury selection. So that was the first day of trial. They granted all the state motions. They denied every motion that we fucking had. Every motion that I put in, they denied it, right? So now, first day of jury selection. It's a jury pool. So it's like 30 people that's gonna come, and they gonna, we pick 7 because it's not a capital crime. So you pick between 6 and 7 jurors to judge the case. You can't pick 12 because it's only capital crimes. You get 12 jurors. So we had to select the 7. So the first couple jurors, right, was asked the question by the state's attorney. So they go first with the question. They asked one of the jurors. They said, "How do you guys feel about gun control?" A lot of people was like, everybody, no one raised their hand, because I live in Florida. Florida is you could say it's a republic state, but they slowly but surely turn into a democratic state. And it's not the people here that's turning Democrats. It's the public officials, like the judges, the legislators, legislation and all that bullshit. The congressmen, the attorney general, all of those people are Democrats, Democratic minds, not Democrat in a way where you think the party, like, because this is what people get a confusion as. They think Democrats means like, oh, like this is a specific party, but not knowing it's two political positions that these people play. One plays on the grounds of the Constitution that believes that everybody have the right and to exercise their rights and exercise their liberties, and you got the other group of people that operates off a fascist government that deal with a majority vote. So the government, and also the government rules. So if you believe in a democracy, you pretty much agreeing that the government got the right to tell you what the fuck to do. You pretty much giving your rights, put them in the hands of the government so they can regulate, license your activities. So now we did the jury selection. Now, after the state's attorney went up and asked questions, I asked questions for potential jurors because they get the rights to pick three. I get the right to pick three, and we get to pick the last one together without any objection. So I asked the jury, and I said, "Does anyone in the jurors, any of you jurors, understand the Constitution? Like, do you guys have any knowledge or any prior knowledge of the Constitution?" And one guy stood up and said, "Yeah, I know a little bit about the Constitution, like not that much, but I understand it's dealing with rights." And I said, "That's good." I said, "Does anyone in the jurors? Is any one of you jurors? Do any of you guys know about the Second Amendment?" The prosecutor was like, "No, Your Honor, no." So she said, "Overruled." So she basically told the state, "Overruled," and allowed me to speak, because that's one thing that they didn't want me to do, is speak. And they say, everybody, "Yeah, we know about the Second Amendment. You got the right to keep and bear arms." And I said, "So who knows what's the difference is between rights and privileges?" Everyone just was quiet for a second. Then this white guy, he said, "We got the right to bear arms." I'm like, so me and my what's those things called again, man? Standby counsel. We was looking like, hell yeah, because everybody was kind of woke. And so the white guy said again, he said, "Is there an injured party?"
They smell like a pile of bullshit!
The prosecutor was like, "No, there is no injured party." And when he said that, I looked at the standby counsel like, we got this case. But the only thing that fucked up the whole case was that those people who was rooting for me got striked by the prosecutor, because the prosecutor asked the question, if there was any biasness, would you guys favor in any way? Would you favor him or basically feel sorry for him or show any biasness against the state? They basically said yes. And if we had to judge the case, we would find him not guilty. And the state said, what if we can prove without a reasonable doubt that he was guilty? They said the same thing. They said we would not find him guilty.
This dude is clearly lying. These people are being selected to be possible jurors in your case, and they're just going to automatically tell the prosecutor that yes, they would find you guilty without even hearing the evidence of the case. Like, what are you talking about? You are clearly lying. That is not how the court system work. They're not just going to ask the jurors, hey, would you be biased against, like, what are you talking about? Get out of here.
And that what made me think like, yes, we got the case, we gonna win. Now, all the jurors left. Soon everyone left. The judge said, States, you go first. She said, I'm striking 25, I'm striking 16, I'm striking number 2. Because those are the top 3 people who was rooting in my favor. Now, in my opinion, I didn't believe that the state had, any grounds to strike any of those people for their own opinion, because, as a juror, you got the right under your own discretion to judge however you want to judge. The same way these judges and prosecutors operate cases today, they get the right to judge however they want to judge. But the fucked up thing about it is the judge didn't allow me to use any defense. So now remind you, I'm new to the whole law thing, right? Like, but I feel like I know enough to gravitate and also give good argument. But
you're retarded.
But I don't know procedures in administrative courts, because in administrative courts it's all about procedures. It has nothing to do with necessarily the argument or law. They don't operate off law. They operate off procedures. So the standard procedures I needed help with. So I hired the attorney, you know, the standby counsel. He's a public defender at standby counsel, just to navigate and help me, you know, fight the case a little bit, like help me navigate with the procedures, because I don't know much about procedures. So he was just teaching me, like, look, you do this, you gotta do it like that, you gotta do that. So I'm like, all right, cool. So now he brought up a topic to the judge. He said, Your Honor, there's an exception to him unlicensed and carrying a firearm. He said, because Taquan was fishing or whatever. The judge looked through the rule book. She was agreeing with it. Then the states came to object, and then the judge favored the states to say, well, he didn't open carry, he concealed carry, so that was a criminal intent. That's what they said. So once we got that strike down, remember, everything got strike down. We didn't have nothing. We ain't had no motherfucking defense. She didn't let us put anything into evidence to challenge the authority, to challenge on a constitutional basis. She didn't let us do none of that shit, right? So the public defender who I'm talking to, I'm like, she's not letting us add any defense? He was like, no, she's not letting us put any fucking defense in. I said, no defense? He said, no. So I'm like, how the fuck we gonna? He said, man, you should have took the deal. And I'm like, hell no. I'm like, how the fuck we, even though, you know, we have a constitutional, you know, liberty to exercise our rights, how the fuck you gonna win a case with no defense? Like, you can't say nothing, because everything we put into evidence, she denied it. Like, okay, we put into evidence that we want to use that I was capping. Okay, excluded. Oh, she denied it. Okay, we want to put it in evidence that I want to use the Second Amendment. Denied. Then we put motion to suppress, violating my Fourth Amendment rights to my personal properties and all that stuff. Denied. So now we like, yeah, the judge want to cook us, because I filed charges against the judge. Like, I think she got the letter in the mail, so that's the reason why me and her going through this whole little thing. So, all right, after they did all that, right, after she rejected every motherfucking motion, the state's attorney, the public defender went to the prosecutor like, okay, what's the offer now? So she was like, he denied all of our offers. We're not giving him any more offers. We tried. And the judge gave me an offer a day before. She gave me an offer of fucking time considered served, walk out, no probation, no shit, no nothing, just time considered served.
Once again, this man is clearly lying. He said that the judge made him an offer when the judges don't make offers. It's the prosecutor who makes offers. Now, even if what he's saying is true and the judge offered him time considered served, he walks out, no nothing, then why in the doohickey didn't you take that offer? Oh, I know why. Because you are a damn fool.
But it was going to be adjudicated, meaning she wanted me to have a conviction, right? Now, in my mind, I was like, hell no. But if I was awarded the state, I would have took that shit in a heartbeat, because ain't nobody getting offered no fucking time considered served, and you a double felon. You got caught with the gun with all evidence against you, and you can walk clean out the door, and the only thing you taking is a charge with you, no probation, no nothing. So I was like, man, that shit sound good, but nah, hell no. I gotta fight for this shit, because this shit gotta, you know, we gotta make mainstream media. So I'm like, fuck it, we going to trial. So remind you, I got a son and everything, right? My son is 1 year old. His name Malachi. So the attorney like, man, you got a son, like, man, you should have took that shit, like man, like, you know, like you facing 5 years in prison, like the judge gonna cook you, they gonna max you out. So I'm like, you know what? I'm like, man, you gotta stand for something. Fuck it, like we going all the way. And so I guess this the second day of trial, right? So first day of trial did not go good. I'm talking about did not go good. I was thinking about leaving the country, escaping to Cuba, and I was going to file for asylum. Asylum is when you go to another country, you escaping prosecution in your former country because it can be unlawful prosecution. In my case, it'd be unlawful prosecution because they're going against the Constitution, and there's no remedy for me. It's only one-sided, so it's ex parte. So it's pretty much one-sided, and I can't fight a fucking case without me being able to defend myself in those proceedings.
Did this fool really just say he was thinking about leaving the country because his first day of trial didn't go well? This man is a complete idiot. You should have used the attorney, and your first day of trial wouldn't have went the way it went. This dude talking about filing for asylum. Oh my goodness. This, you can't make this stuff up.
So the public defender, right? Now remind you, he only working with me because I'm actually working for myself, because I hired him as limited counsel due to the fact that he know procedures. Because you can know law, you can know the Constitution, but without knowing procedures, you're not going to get the whole, you feel me? You ain't going to get too far. That's the thing that we got to understand. You got to know procedures, bro. Like, you got to know procedures. If you don't know procedures, man, you're going to be fucked up. So another thing, right? So, all right, second day of trial. Now, imagine, everybody came. The officer that arrested me came. Who else? The firearm lady, you know, the people who the instructor is to, you know, to shoot the guns. She came. What else? Who else came? And it's another witness. The Florida firearm, the people to confirm that if you got a license or not, she came. So they asked the officer, what happened. He was like, yeah, I came to the scene and I seen someone bleeding and I wanted to assist him. Now we helping him get on the stretcher. And so, like you know, I reached in his pocket and I seen he had a gun. But what's so curious is, if I'm bleeding on the ground, right, how the first thing that you found on me was a fucking gun, and that gun was very small. Like, you would have to really search for that motherfucker to actually get it. It wasn't like no big 30 and AK-47. That was a little ass gun, like the gun like this damn big, not even bigger than my hand, that was inside of my pockets. And I had deep pockets. It was basketball shorts, and I was driving a dirt bike, and I was in an accident.
Yeah, he goes lying again. The officer would not have testified to finding the gun in your pocket because he clearly, on the video, it shows he found the gun in your bag, in the green bag you were carrying. When he gets to the scene, he asks you, were you driving with this bag? And you said yes. And that is when they got you, because you admitted to the bag being yours, the very bag that the gun was in. So stop lying about the officer testifying that he found the gun in your pocket, because that is not how it happened.
Flashback.
What's up? Is this, were you wearing this bag when we got hit by the car?
End of flashback.
So after that whole situation, the officer said in trial, I seen the gun. I'm like, you seen the gun? So that goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you basically say I seen the gun, I basically open carry, which would be an exception if I was going camping or fishing.
Excuse me, sir, but the officer saw the gun after they pulled it out of your backpack or your pocket, whichever one. That's when the officer saw the gun. It's not as if the gun didn't exist. You did have a gun on you that they found.
I was around the fishing area in the lake, but fuck that. We can go deeper now. Let's just go deeper. So he went inside my pocket and took the gun. So to the jurors, that's already a red flag. You as an officer are supposed to be standby for protection. You're not supposed to be touching me. You're not supposed to be searching me for a crime, because there is no crime in an accident. It's a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter. So unlawful searches and seizures, you can clearly see right there. The second thing was, right, the lady from the Florida Firearm Division, she took the stand, and she said basically there was no record of entry that I filed for a firearm license.
No shit.
Now the thing about it is, when you become a state citizen, on your passport, when the police run it, it says restricted. Do not stop, do not detain, do not interrogate, lifetime concealed weapons permit.
Excuse me, sir, but that is literally something you made up. No one's passport says anything to that effect. Furthermore, the officers in the hospital told you what pulled up when they ran your passport. Just your information. There is no such thing as a passport having, when they run it, it'll tell you to do not detain, and it certainly doesn't pull up any firearms record. So what are you talking about? This is just the bull crap that you love selling to these idiots on the internet. So you're debunking your own teachings, because when they pulled your passport, none of that stuff that you preach and teach about pulled up. So stop it with the lies. You made that whole thing up.
Now this is given to you by the Department of State. This ain't got nothing to do with Illinois license. This ain't got nothing to do with Florida license or California license. This is given to you by the Department of State once you become a national. This just allowed it just to use if the police pull you over and they see you have a gun, they're supposed to let you go by your way. But since I was in a situation of being damn near critically conditioned, and they wanted to use that, I gave a nurse, my address. They want to use that to say, boom, we got jurisdiction. They did gain jurisdiction because of that. Anytime you give out your address, I don't give a damn what that passport say, you're going to lose your rights and you're going to be fighting the case. So never use your address, never give out your address. Don't ever tell nobody your address, right? So the second day of trial, he questioned them. They was like, okay, he questioned them, the attorney, he cross-examined all the witnesses. So he brought up something else, right? Now, we rest our arguments and we want to get to closing arguments. So once we got to the closing arguments, he examined to the jury reciprocity. If y'all don't know what reciprocity means, that means that Florida allowed reciprocity. That means you can have a license in another state outside of Florida, and Florida can accept the fact that you got a license out of state, but the state didn't prove that. Since they didn't prove I didn't have a license at all, they pretty much flopped on their own case. So after that whole thing, after he proved reciprocity, the jurors went back to the back room to deliberate. Now, I wasn't confident at all, because when I said they had evidence, they got video, they got the gun, they got motherfucking audio, they got all the witnesses in the world, right? So since they got all the witnesses in the world, all of the witnesses, I knew that it's a big ass chance of guilty. But I also knew that the people who was the jurors, those was like constitutional advocates. I read everybody, like the white people, the black people, and then I knew they was constitutional advocates. In that sense, I'm not gonna lie to you. When you're dealing with like so-called Caucasians and black people, you gotta understand, right? When more white people are more Second Amendment advocates than us, because one thing we don't understand is like the Second Amendment. We don't understand that stuff. Like it's not really inbred into us. It's not a part of our daily politics. These people understand the Constitution. They're against these legislative encroachments that they doing on us, putting on us and all that shit. They understand that. It's just like we go off emotion. Like, okay, I feel as though if he a black guy, they wrongfully accusing him of a crime. Like, you feel we deal with emotion. They try to deal with the facts of the case, but they looking at it from a Second Amendment. They was gone once I put the icing on the cake about the Second Amendment. So once I brought in Second Amendment, that shit was already in their mind. You got the right to bear arms. So anything that the prosecutor want to argue, they not going to side about it. But I didn't know that at the time, because I'm thinking the prosecutor putting up a good argument in this administrative court. But at the same time, I don't know where the fuck these jurors' minds is at. So I left the courthouse. When they went to deliberate, I left the courthouse. I left, pulled off. I'm all the way going to another fucking city. So I'm in Orlando. I'm leaving to Kissimmee. I'm going to a whole nother fucking city.
This guy got to be one of the stupidest sovereign citizens that I've ever heard. So in the middle of his court case, as the jurors are deliberating, he leaves, and in his words, all the way to another mother effing city. Wow. So he pretty much fled. This dude got to be the dumbest, one of the dumbest people on the internet. I can't even believe that he actually admitted to fleeing in the middle of his court hearing.